I mean, if you think it's bad now, wait, it's just only going to get worse. It's only downhill from here. You know, that's how bad it is.
What you think is real is more than likely not. What you believe to be true is mostly false. And what you are told and accepted by you is never challenged unless you feel the need to investigate at a level you believe is worth your time to do so. The popular vote that wins today becomes stale after the results are portrayed unto us using time to deliver its message of undeliverable and unfavorable results. What if you learned that the US dollars you had in your possession today would be worth less than half its value in the next 6 to 8 months? There would be a choice given to you. Either dismiss it as not being true or believe it as being the truth. What would your decision be based off of to come to your conclusion? Your local news? The newspapers you read? Perhaps your neighbor told you an impactful story during your conversation you had on the back porch last week. But truly ask yourself this: where does the information I get come from? Is it credible? Is it really the truth of it all? Most people will accept what they see or hear for the very first time if it comes from a trusted or credible source. But what if your trusted source has been misinformed themselves? Or they're simply giving you false information altogether?
Well, I think it's, frankly, you could also say, for the people who are the most aware of the consequences, namely people like ourselves, who are advisors to companies who have to live in the economy, we sure know what the consequence will be, and it will be awful.
The United States is now the world's biggest debt nation, and our current economic expansion is only possible because Japan, China, and Europe are willing to finance our trade deficit by, in effect, lending us over $800 billion per year. They do this by taking the dollars we pay for their cars, wine, and Chinese electronics, and using them to buy U.S. bonds and other financial assets.
Tell them what $1 trillion is. I know that's a silly exercise. Just say, well, let me tell you something about us, this country. If you spend $1 a second, you wouldn't hit $1 trillion for 32,500 years. And if you spend $1 million a day since the birth of Christ, you wouldn't be at $1 trillion. And the Big Bang Theory of the universe happened 13,600 billion years ago. That ain't even close to $1 trillion, and we owe 16 of those babies.
For the past few decades, the U.S. has enjoyed a historically unique position. As the most powerful nation in an increasingly globalized world, its currency, the dollar, has been in demand as a store of value. That is, investors in central banks in other countries want to hold dollars as alternatives to their own, presumably less stable currencies. This insatiable demand for dollars has handed U.S. consumers and governments a virtually unlimited credit card, and we've spent the past 2 decades maxing it all out.
And the United States will be losing the privilege of being able to print at its will of the world's reserve currency, a period that will be very inflationary. And I can tell you that before that happens, it is likely going to become quite ugly.
We can see countries are already getting ready for this. The United States is ready for this, because once we are no longer the reserve currency and the dollar collapses, this is when things go really crazy here in the United States.
So what really happens when the dollar collapses? When foreign investors and central banks stop demanding dollars, U.S. bond prices will fall, which is another way of saying that U.S. interest rates will rise. Mortgage and credit card rates will soar, sending the U.S. economy back into recession. The U.S. government will respond by opening the monetary floodgates, printing as many paper dollars as necessary to keep the economy from collapsing. This surge in supply will send the value of the dollar through the floor. Prices for most things will skyrocket, and peoples whose life savings that are in cash, bank CDs, or dollar-denominated bonds will be wiped out. Many U.S. financial and manufacturing companies will be ruined, along with their stockholders.
Isn't the bond market going to be the first thing to go poof?
No, it won't be the first thing. The dollar will go poof first, because remember, the Federal Reserve can buy up all those bonds to stop the prices from collapsing. But in order to do so, it has to print dollars. But eventually the dollar collapses because the world figures out the game. So the Fed can print all the dollars they want, but they can't force anybody to accept them. That is going to be the problem. And gold is already giving you a window into what is going to happen.
This system is in collapse, and it's unbelievable, and most people don't even see what's going on.
It is without question now that you take a serious look at diversifying into a commodity that has stood the test of time, which is gold. Human desires for luxuries are unlimited, and therefore, luxury goods are always in demand and will always be acceptable. So the question will be, how many US dollars do you own in comparison to pure gold?
What can you do personally to protect yourself? And that's where I'm getting into the area of owning some physical gold.
Or where do you suspect gold will end up this year? And I guess I put you on the spot. Where do you think it'll end up at the end of 2014?
It'll probably be a lot higher. I just can't really guess how much higher. It depends on how much of the scenario that I believe is coming plays out in 2014 as opposed to 2015. But would I be surprised to see gold up, at record highs? Would it surprise me if at the end of the year gold's at 2,000? Wouldn't surprise me at all. I know eventually it's going to skyrocket. And the most important thing for me, and I think for my clients, is that they own it before it happens. To me, that's the most important thing, just to be in it when it takes off. I don't want to be scrambling to buy my gold when it's going up $100, $200 a day. Let somebody else, deal with that. I want to buy it while it's calm and while the prices are low.
Until very recently, gold was humanity's money of choice, for one very good reason. It exists in limited supply, and governments can't make more of it, so its value tends to be stable. It shall not just be the US dollar to suffer a collapse. Other major, if not all, world paper currencies will be affected. As paper currencies collapse, the world will look for alternatives, one of which is sure to be gold. Massive amounts of global capital will start chasing a very limited supply of gold, sending its value through the roof.
If you watch CNBC, if you actually pay attention to the US media, they will always tell you there's green shoots or it's going to be a recovery. There's no chance of that.
You don't think there are any signs of that?
It's not possible. If people don't start to wake up to what's going on, they're going to get hurt in this collapse.